Hey friends, I am here today to answer one of the questions that I had 1 year ago today, which is how many amps can you get for free on the Kemper profiling amp? Now, I bought this last March, so I've had it for about 9 months now, and I'm very, very happy with my Kemper. It does different things than I expected. It does what I expected, some more things, and then some other things it doesn't do. At least not as much as I'd like. So the first question, I'm just going to try a really practical approach and say, can you get a good plexi sound for free within a Kemper? Now I realize a free Kemper, you're already spending $1,800 on the amp. But once you have that, do you have to spend more money to then get, say, a plexi sound, which is a 69 Marshall? So I'm going to give you my clean tone here. Playing a Jackson DK2M. Nothing crazy about it. It's got DiMarzio pickups, an Air Classic, and a super distortion in the bridge. It's got a Floyd Rose, which I will not be using. In fact, it's very new to me, which is why I'm playing it today. It goes compound radius that will probably cause me to have some playing errors while I'm not looking at it. I'm staring at the screen. But this is not about my playing. So please forgive all of that up front. I'm not here to shred for you, but we are going to look at the Kemper Rig Exchange, which at this moment, as of January 3rd, 9:23 Eastern Time, there are 16,846 amps on the Rig Exchange. These are amps that people upload, they make on their own and they upload for free. And so what I'm going to show you is that there are a lot of amps here, obviously, and I think probably 15,000, maybe even 16,000 even of them are just not very good, that I just want to skip past. And so you have to have a more strategic way to go through it. You can sort by crowd rating, but that isn't really that helpful because as you see, most of these that have 5 stars have 1 or 2 votes. Out of all the Kemper users in the world for 7 years or however long they've been doing this, there's still just not that many votes. You could sort by number of votes, but the most voted for amp has 146, which is really not even that many. And that gives it a 4.59 rating for this Morgan AC20, which I think I've actually played before. I'll double click it. Okay, that's actually a pretty good AC sound. So, the other problem is when you're in the rig manager side here, I can't give that my own rating. I have to download it into my local library or profiler in order for me to rate it. So I think that's probably why there aren't more ratings out here. If I could just scroll through the Rig Exchange and say I like it, I don't like it, and keep moving, that would probably help. So I tend to just sort by time of upload. I have this erroneous theory, and I know that it's wrong, that people are getting better and better at capturing amps. That's not true. There are new people coming to Kemper every day, and when you're new with Kemper, your first few captures, probably your first 100 captures, will be terrible, even if you have nice equipment. I've finally gotten to a point where I think I'm passable at it. I certainly would not charge people money for my profiles. In fact, I can maybe even give them away to YouTube watchers at some point. But now we're going to look for plexi. Now the problem is, people fill out all of this data any way that they want. So I'm going to search for plexi on the Rig Exchange, and there we go. It came back with this stuff. So you're going to see that some of these are based on other manufacturers' versions of a plexi. Some of them are, here's a Fractal Audio plexi, which is another type of profiling digital amp using its imitation of a plexi that someone put into a Kemper, and they put 9 versions of it here. So, I'll click on that one first just so you can hear. Oop, there we go. And that one is their plexi with a TS-808 tube screamer. Either way, as far as I'm concerned, those 9 I would just, hide and remove. I'm not interested in those. They sound kind of muddy and dark and not not just a huge fan of the way they sound. So I can just keep scrolling right past those. However, what we have up here is a very interesting. So I click once on it, I see all the information. This guy named it a plexi. The amp itself is a Marshall do-it-yourself mod for a 1959 Plexit do-it-yourself. I assume that was like an amp kit that he built, or it is some kind of mod he's done to a 1959 Plexi. Either way, you now have my interest because you're using a real plexi or some plexi wiring. So we're going to see he used an R121 and an R101 on axis with 412 greenback cab. That should sound pretty good. Let's see what we got. Now I like that, but I can't tell how much I like the actual amp behind it because he's got these pedals on. So I'm going to turn off his soft shaper pedal and his quad delay. I'll leave reverb on just because I'm kind of a nut about reverb, and we'll see what it sounds like. I think that sounds pretty good. Now, the real test for a good, clean capture is, can you roll the gain all the way back and get a clean sound? And then can you crank it all the way up and get a driven sound? I think that's a pretty great capture. If I could rate on the fly, I would definitely give that a good rating. And just above it here, we see another one. Now this one's confusing because he uses plexi in his given name to it, but we see his amp was a Fender 63 Vibroverb reissue, which is not a plexi, and the cabinet was a Fender Combo Openback Studio 210 with blue Alnicos in it, which is also not a plexi. And there's no pedal. Oh, it's got a TKI Mobster distortion on that Vibroverb amp. I don't know if that's supposed to be a plexi pedal. It does not sound like it by the name, but we'll see what that sounds like. So there's nothing particularly plexi about that. I think he just, set that distortion pedal in such a way that he thought it sounded plexi-ish to him. And that's probably just what he named it in his own rig. He's not trying to troll anybody. But either way, that's not what I'm looking for when I'm like, I want a plexi sound. Now here we have a high watt DR103 1972. I assume that's some kind of plexi circuit. Oh boy, he's got a lot of stuff. I'm going to turn off the rotary speaker, the wah, the full OC, the pedal pitch, the vintage chorus, and the single delay. And that is a pretty clean amp, so... Now, see, that's a good one because that's a great example of how I stripped that down to something that I would actually like. If I stored it in my local library, I would change these pedals. I would change them so they don't default to on. But if you are not paying attention to that kind of stuff and you just roll through the rig manager, you would hear this. And I would be like, that's too effectsy, that's too driven. I don't want that, and I would just keep going. But actually, there's a diamond in the rough there. There's an amp I really like. It's just buried underneath all that stuff. So if you know how to use the rig manager, some of it you will find, it just is not appealing to me at all. This fire pile, there's nothing I could have done to that as fractal plexis. But this high watt is actually a really great sounding amp. And here at the very top, we've got Michael Britt, who is probably the best Kemper capturer in the world. He's got here a third powder Dreamweaver Proto that has a plexi channel on it, and he's also driving a Klon pedal in front of it. And so we'll see what that sounds like. Now, again, I'm going to remove that treble, the pedal pitch, and the signal delay. So it's just the reverb. Now, since he did this by putting a Klon in front of the amp when he captured it, the clean, that still has that mid-rangey, trebly, I guess more treble than anything on a Klon, push to it where you're not getting the real clean sound of that amp. However, crank this sucker up and you'll get something very nice. There's the bad notes I promised. And yeah, you could even push it a little harder with a tube screamer, which he has built in here. Now, personally, I don't really care for the way that tube screamer interacts with the Klon. So anyway, you can see, I'll just click on one more here. Here's a Bugera Plexi lead. I didn't know Bugera made a Plexi sound. I'm going to turn off his green screen and his studio EQ and his graphic EQ and his dual delay. So there you have it. That is a pretty hot amp. That's not even all the way up. I think that's actually much hotter than a Plexi would get. So I know that I already said that Brit was the best capturer out in the world, but this one is a very clean, impressive capture that sounds really good at the pure clean, the sparkly beginning of breakup. And as we already know, sounds good with the gain. So that's what you get. And then as we keep scrolling here, here's another one that it's got like 10 or 20 of these. It's not a bad amp, but there's so many of them, it would take a long time to go through. And I should note that this is not the only way to find a Plexi, because remember, we're just going by what people volunteered in terms of the information. So if I search for a 69 Marshall, which has a 6, not just a 9, and look by, well, let's go to time of upload again. And here we have a 69 Marshall from someone that was just uploaded New Year's Day. Happy New Year's to you. Yeah, so I'm not about to download that. That didn't sound good to me at all. And I think that is the problem with the Rig Exchange. If you really dig in and do some work, you can find some really great sounds, but you're going to have more misses than hits. Now, on the other hand, if you spend a little money, like I did on this Michael Britt pack here, the 69 Marshall 50 watt into, he gives out, first of all, just look how clean all this is filled out. There's the mics he used, there's the speaker he used. He does it with the same amp with different speakers, and then he does it at different gain stages. And here's the clean on that. And if we push that into the sparkly breakup, this is actually I have it favorited because this is my go-to when I plug my Les Paul into the Kemper. And then if we take it all the way up, so not the most driven thing you've ever heard, but again, he's got the tube screamer stacked on here. So if you ever need an amp much hotter than that one, you know, you've probably got some problems, because that is a smoking hot amp. And then right back to a very nice clean. So anyway, that's how you find a plexi sound for free on the market, or you pay, you know, a couple bucks. It's a lot cheaper than even borrowing the amp from your friend and getting out all the mics and doing a bunch of ear-piercing captures on your own. It gives you all this beautiful stuff. I think 20 bucks on top is a small price to pay for the tone you're looking for on top of the $1,800 Kemper. However, with the right level of determination, ingenuity, and know-how with Kemper, you can probably find for free what you're looking for on the Rig Exchange. So I hope this has been helpful. If there's another amp, you know, you have to have a Kemper to use this software. And so if you're curious about what else is in there and you want me to look for a particular amp, just leave it in the comments. I would be happy to do this again with another guitar and another amp. Another searching for a great Fender clean sound is something that I still haven't found on the Rig Exchange to my satisfaction. I did, you know, make my own. But I am not an expert capturer. So anyway, anything that would be helpful, any other questions I can answer about the Kemper, I would be happy to do. And if you found this video helpful, please help me out with a like, a subscribe, and I would love a comment. I try to respond to every single comment on every video on my channel. So check out this and the other videos that I've got. Thanks for watching, and I hope to talk to you again soon.